Good morning, YouTube. We are starting in about, I would say, about 45 seconds, so hold tight. We have Michelangelo Signorile on the line this morning. We're interviewing him about his book, so give us about 30 seconds and we're ready to rock.
And here we go.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is
not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Did you think no one was watching?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
your mission.
Suppose we go where no man has gone before.
To reclaim the American dream,
To be given the right of human beings to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
You've certainly come to the right place.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon, and we are live from Boston. I am excited this morning, not just because it's Wednesday and we're halfway through the week, but I'm even more excited because we are being graced with the presence of Michelangelo Signorile. And for those of you who are involved in the progressive movement, those of you who are involved with equality, marriage equality, you already know who he is. But for those of you who may not know who he is the best-selling author of Queer in America. He is the host of the Michelangelo Signorile Show on Sirius XM Progress, and he's done that for many years. I've listened to him every chance that I've gotten on his broadcast, and I really am just excited and elated to have him on the show this morning. Michael, thank you. Mike. So thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's definitely excited about the things that you're doing, your show, and actually I had a chance to read your new book, It's Not Over. And I picked it up just in time before I left the country to go to Costa Rica. And I read it while I was on the plane, and I read some of it while I was in the jungles of Costa Rica. And
wow.
Yeah, it really stuck with me. And so I'm glad to have this chance to speak with you with regard to your book. And just a little insight in terms of the Benjamin Dixon Show. We live on the intersection of race, equality, and progress. And dealing with matters of race, oftentimes dealing with the African American community, the LGBT community is sometimes, if I can borrow something from feminism, is an erased intersection. And sometimes it's an overlooked issue in the African American community. And so I'm just glad to have the opportunity to speak with you as an expert in your area, as a leading voice in your area, and particularly with regard to your new book that I think people should definitely pick up and read. It's Not Over: Getting Beyond Tolerance, Defeating Homophobia, and Winning True Equality. So, Mike, I just want to turn it over to you. Tell us about the book and the motivation behind the book and some of the core messages that you want people to learn from that book.
Well, again, I want to thank you for having me on it. And it's so important to talk about all of the intersections and overlap and how LGBT rights kind of at this point, connect so many things. And the book really is a warning to LGBT activists and a wake-up call, and to look at all the movements of the past. And we stand on the shoulders of the women's movement. We stand on the shoulders of the Black civil rights movement in terms of organizing and demanding rights and putting our bodies on the line. But we also should learn from them in many other ways too. And I talk about in the first chapter what I call victory blindness, where we have some victories, and it is spellbinding when you are a people who are out in the cold for so many years, treated terribly, derided, invisible, demonized, under attack, decimated by an epidemic. Suddenly you get these intoxicating wins, and it can make some people think that it's done. And the apathy then creates a change in tactic. People start saying, well, it's inevitable now that we're going to get full rights. And then they say, we have to be magnanimous now to our enemies.
Right.
Don't look like sore winners. That changes the tactic from confrontation and really taking on that deeply embedded homophobia, which is as deeply embedded as racism and sexism and everything else in this culture. And it doesn't progress us forward. It allows the backlash to grow. So I lay that out in the book, and then I move on to every aspect of culture where we see the still entrenched homophobia, whether it is in popular culture, in television or films, or in the media where they always put on the quote-unquote other side, and then the world of sports and elsewhere. And I talk about what we need to do moving forward, some concrete things we need to do moving forward, revolutionizing education, giving people self-empowerment, learning how to really feel better about themselves, and even teaching self-defense. This is bullying epidemic in schools and elsewhere. So a lot of prescriptions as well in the book for the future.
Wow. Wow. And I'm just one passage that stood out with me at the beginning, where you said that, where you described it was a dangerous moment, a moment in which all of us, LGBT and straight, who support equality, risk falling prey to what I've come to call victory blindness. And you mentioned that a few minutes ago. I thought that concept was definitely revealing and insightful, because it seems as though once we get gains, and when I say we, I'm talking about every marginalized group. And I think that's something that people fail to realize, is that I've come to learn, and it takes growth. I've come to learn that the same hatred that's behind racism is the same hatred that's behind sexism, behind homophobia, Islamophobia. It's the same hatred. It's just experienced and expressed differently. And so when I say we, I'm talking to all of us, that sometimes we get a victory or we get one step forward, and we become timid about our strides. And I love the way you coined that, victory blindness, not to allow these steps, which are significant. They are great steps. We're making strides, but that does not mean we have the victory yet. And I think I wanted to ask you this question: getting beyond tolerance. I have my ideas about what you mean based on what I've read, but I want to hear from you. What do you mean when you say getting beyond tolerance?
Well, I think it's true of every group, all marginalized groups, right? Women, every ethnic minority, religious minority, LGBT people, that we sort of become comfortable with this idea of being tolerated. The culture says, okay, we'll make some room for you in this, but you still maintain that outsider status. And, you know, as long as you present yourself as palatable to us, you're fine. So I borrowed from a brilliant writer, Kenji Yoshino, who wrote the book Covering. And I throughout my book, I really just give him props, because he wrote as an Asian American gay man, this idea of covering, where once marginalized groups get some rights and some acceptability, they are often, you know, covering themselves, even though it's not the closet anymore, or even though if you're Black, you can't literally, you know, obviously live in a closet where you're white. There's still this idea of covering up your difference, being a team player, fitting in and making yourself palatable, respectability politics, right? Making yourself palatable to the dominant group. That doesn't eat away at the deeply embedded bigotry. It simply allows for it, right? It gives them an excuse to keep it rather than challenge it. And then they get into that, you know, well, I like this certain kind of Black people. I like this certain kind of gay people, not the people who are at the parade looking like this, or not the people who are wearing these clothes or doing that. That's what you get.
Right. Right. I mean, that's why I really enjoyed the book, especially because of what you just illuminated. It gives us, it makes us conform to their expectations. If we don't challenge the fact that they have no right to set an expectation for us. I mean, I think that's when I see getting beyond tolerance, to me, it says that if we allow ourselves to just be tolerated, then we are still asking permission to be equal in America, right? We don't need their permission to be equal in America. We just need to pan things out in the court system. We need to pan things out, but we don't need anyone's permission to be gay. We don't need anyone's permission to be black. We don't need anyone's okay to be a woman. We simply are equal. And if we don't change that mindset, that's what was jumping out of the pages when I read your book, man. It was like, if we don't change that fundamental mindset, then we will always be going to them, asking them permission. Are we okay now? Do we look good enough now? Are we dressed well enough now? Or are we manly enough now? That's, I really enjoyed that exchange. You mentioned something with regard to covering, which it is all throughout the book. And here's one nuance that I want to ask you about with regard to some of the dissent that you guys, the LGBT community at large, get from some African Americans, because we have this relationship between the Black community and the LGBT community that we are generally all progressive, but we in the Black community are overwhelmingly religious. And I know there's a lot of kickback that I get on my show. Even I have a large African American community, but I get it from some of my brothers who are like, why are you always talking about LGBTQ rights? Why are you always talking about this and all these sorts of things? With regard to covering, do you think that there's any difference between the ability of a gay person, LGBTQ, to actually cover or even disguise? Not saying that it's something that should be done, because I'm in agreement with you that there should not be this hiding or this covering or conforming. But do you see any distinction between that potential of covering and the inability of a Black person to outright cover our skin, even though, like the LGBT community, we can conform to respectability politics? I know I loaded that question up a whole bunch. Just take whatever portion of it you want and run with it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we share commonalities, and I think we share a commonality in the way the enemies of equality organize their backlash. But obviously, there are very big differences to the oppressions we face, the histories that we have, and the way that we are marked in the society. Certainly women cannot cover being women, although there are different ways. There are different ways of dressing and different ways of appearing and this and that. I think that's probably similar for African Americans, but of course you can't change the color of your skin. Whereas if you are gay, you can try to act a certain way, look a certain way, be a certain way. And, if you're white and male, you can fit in. But I always try to tell people that, covering is, even in the gay community, is a privilege, because there are many people who are, just by nature of who they are, they're gender non-conforming. They are more, effeminate men, or butch women, or then there's transgender people who are easily marked. They don't really kind of pass. They don't. There are, so even in the gay community, there are certain levels of it. Now, you can then also be the conventionally masculine gay man, and you're on the street and you see your boyfriend and you have a quick kiss, and boom, you're not covering anymore. And that was the case with Michael Sam. Right here was a man who was a conventionally masculine guy who could have just fit in as the first openly gay football player, but he decided to kiss his boyfriend, be equal to all the other players who kissed their wives on TV. And we saw the reaction, and the reaction showed what happens when you're not covering. But you mentioned the issue, and I just wanted to raise it slightly because I think it's important. You mentioned the issue of the pushback that you get, and sometimes on this issue, and I bring that back to the covering that goes on in the LGBT community, because too often we, in terms of wanting that respectability, put out front, white, middle class, gay people as the leaders, and that sends a certain message, whereas we really should be focusing on our LGBT people of color as that bridge, as that, intersection. I mean, and, you look at Black Lives Matter, 3 women created that hashtag who were lesbian. Deray Mckesson is gay, who's been organizing a lot of these protests. We really need to have these people leading in so many different ways.
Absolutely. You know what? I can't agree with you more. I've actually had a chance to interview Deray Mckesson. I always call him Mckesson. I'm glad you gave me the right pronunciation. But he's definitely.
I may be wrong too.
Deray, if one of us are wrong, we apologize, Deray. But I love the fact that they are sometimes the most vocal and the most outspoken on matters of race. But then when we drill down, I'm disturbed by the fact that when we drill down to their intersection, that it's almost painful. You could see some of the hesitation that they may have with addressing race and then their sexuality, and that's troublesome because of the lingering baggage in the African American community with regard to our staunch conservative religious values. And this is something personally that I had to really sit down and really ask myself the question: how is it that I can be a straight Christian male and align myself with a political party, or not even the party, but an ideology that is welcoming to gays and lesbians? Because I found myself at a rally and I'm pumping my fist right next to a gay guy, and I had to ask myself that question: how does it fit? And if we never sit down as the Black community and ask ourselves, how does this fit? How does this work? Then we'll always continue to get that pushback. So in that regard, I try to be, I don't want to self-ordain myself as an ally, but it is definitely one of the areas that I'm constantly fighting within my own community to make sure that people understand that if someone is homophobic, then they're just one sneeze away from being racist if they're not already racist. And if we don't combat that bigotry on every single level, then we're not fixing the problem.
I think that's so true. And, faith is something important to a lot of people, and certainly to a lot of people who feel marginalized and are outside the boundaries of the mainstream. It is what they turn to. And I think there are, obviously some very powerful aspects to it, but we have to constantly examine it and see who it is marginalizing sometimes too. And that's so important. And even when I go to these events where I, see a lot of big white evangelical Christians organizing, a lot of the people, just the average people, the average folks, not the people organizing at the top who are exploiting it all, they're just people who themselves are very committed to their faith and looking for answers in life. And they are exploited often by the leaders who tell them, oh, it's the gays creating the problem. Right. And I think we need to reach out to them too.
Absolutely. It takes, and sometimes it just takes a simple conversation, but it's one of those things where the burden should not be on the LGBT community to do that, because the problem is ours. In the faith community, it is our responsibility to take that step on our own and not wait to people to have to carry us by the hand all the time. And so that's I don't have you for much longer because I know you're a very busy man, but I want to get into 2 specific incidents that one that you mentioned in the book and one that just recently happened. And I can never pronounce this gentleman's last name. Brandon Ike. How do you pronounce it?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Brendan Ike.
Okay, I hit it right the first time. So in his firing, you discussed that, or his resignation, actually. You discussed that situation where you got pushback from others in the LGBT community. And I think that's where I first saw you mention the word the expectation that you guys should carry yourselves in a magnanimous way, and that we need to be palatable in our approach. discuss that just a little bit, and then once you're done with that, I want to talk about the gay pizzeria, the pizzeria that didn't want to bake a gay pizza. So we'll hit those two, and then I know you have to go.
Yeah, Brendan Ike, of course, was the CEO of Mozilla, which gave us the Firefox app, which millions of people use around the world. Brilliant guy, done extraordinary things. Before he was brought in as CEO, some people were unhappy with the fact that he was at the company and had been a founder of Mozilla, but they had noted that he gave money to the cause of Proposition 8 in California, which banned gay marriage. But it kind of died down. The company didn't think anything of it, and they promoted him to CEO. And that really created a lot of concern, mostly within the company, because it's a very unique company. It's a foundation that owns it. So it is these developers around the world who really donate their time. They don't even get paid because they're committed to a transparent web. And they were saying, well, why would we want to donate our time to this company and work with this company? And then other companies, which is the free market, right, in Silicon Valley, were saying, why do we want to do business with this company? Some of them were owned by gay people. A gay couple owns the company Rarebit. And so they started saying, we're not going to work with this company. That, to me, is an example of free market working. It should be something conservative to support. And we should be looking at it as, and they were putting pressure on Mozilla. And it then came out that he gave money to Patrick Buchanan, and he gave money to some other anti-gay candidates. And he eventually resigned after this pressure on Mozilla, none of which came from gay activists or from gay groups, but from people working with these companies. And we should have seen it as the very, very beginning of a societal shift that was a good thing, of zero tolerance. If he were someone who supported anti-Semitic candidates, of course, some people say that's the case with Patrick Buchanan too, but if he had supported racist candidates, nobody would have said, oh my God, this is terrible that he resigned. So I took on a lot of the people among LGBT opinion makers who really were saying, oh, this is bad. The optics of it are bad. It looks like we're censoring him, we're shutting him down. And I said, no, you're actually feeding the backlash there. You're giving them the space. You're helping to create this religious liberties and religious freedom meme where they claim they're under attack, and suddenly their religious freedom is under attack, or their beliefs are under attack. You need to say, no, this was the market playing out. This was people in other companies saying, we don't want to deal with this person. And they had every choice, every right to make a choice about who's their CEO.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that the distinctions that I read in that chapter was that you made it clear that it wasn't any LGBTQ activist group, it wasn't any leader rallying, but it was genuinely the people at those companies and the businesses that did business with Mozilla that made this happen. So my question to you is, if it had been the case, as I believe Andrew Sullivan kind of positioned, and I watched him on the it was the, not Jon Stewart, it was the Stephen Colbert show that he made this case. He kind of made it seem as though it was the gay community that made this happen.
Right.
Would that have changed your opinion if it had been, and I'm doing a hypothetical here, but I just kind of want to pick your brain a little bit. If it had been the gay activist groups that had targeted him and tried to get him fired, would that change your opinion with regards to the not being or behaving in a magnanimous way?
It wouldn't have changed my position, because I think we need to stand up to bigotry wherever it is, and demand that those who are claiming to be progressive, and these companies in Silicon Valley are very much about embracing diversity and embracing the LGBT community. If they want our business, then we need to demand it. So it wouldn't have changed it for me. What just made it more angering was that it should have been something conservatives embrace because it was the market playing out. right?
But come on, we all know that's not going to
Right.
happen in this regards. But I definitely agree with you that it was, and I definitely appreciate you making that clarification, because it wasn't, it was the market. The market did this, and if the market says something, then if you really believe in capitalism, then you allow the market to say what it has to say. Listen,
Right.
I definitely want to ask you about, and I'll make this one quick, about the gay pizzeria, the pizzeria that did not want to,
Right.
that to me, and I want to give you my really quick take on it, and show me where I may be wrong or where you may agree with me. To me, when Twitter and all of the people, the population at large, shut this place down, to me, I kind of fell on the side of what Andrew Sullivan and Dan Savage and some of the other people that you mentioned with regard to the Brandon Ike incident. I kind of fell on that side of it for this reason. Once they shut it down and they opened up that GoFundMe account and they raised almost $1 million in a single day, to me, I felt like that was, we got what we deserved because, and I didn't use this word at the time, but I'm taking it from you, because we did not act in a magnanimous way, because we were not the bigger people, because we acted like conservatives act. We acted like, the same things that disgust us, the thing that makes us upset. We carried ourselves in that manner with regard to this pizzeria, and we gave them, we made a martyr out of them. We gave them $1 million false idol to worship around. And I think that was just my perception of it. Now, have at it. Where am I wrong in that perception, or what do you agree with? And just let it rip.
Yeah, I do think you have to pick your battles. And there's so many things out there that need our attention. And there is a difference between the CEO of a major multi-billion-dollar company, that is having impact around the globe,
absolutely,
and these people who own a pizzeria in a rural area in Indiana, who, by the way, were really, I think, seized upon by this media interviewer who really was, I won't say she was putting words in their mouths, but she was really trying to get them to say the things that she wanted them to say. And we know that the media itself is in its own business, right? Yeah. So they're selling their own story. Yeah. So to me, that was blowing something up that could have just been let go. Of course, then you get into the issue of how do you control Twitter? How do you tell people they shouldn't be expressing themselves? Is it wrong for them to express their opinion? That's what people are doing, expressing their opinion. Yeah. And so I don't know the answer to how to prevent it, but I do agree that we should pick our battles better.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. Mike, I definitely appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much. Best of luck with your book sales and everything that you're doing. And hopefully we could be in touch.
This has been a great conversation. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Michelangelo Signorile of the Michelangelo Signorile Show. We definitely want you to pick up his book, It's Not Over, Getting Beyond Tolerance, Defeating Homophobia, and Winning True Equality. Okay, folks, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we want to unpack a couple of more things, and we'll discuss more of his book, and hopefully we can get him back on the show sometime. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. You guys buckle up.
When you're ready to lose weight, why count, track, and worry over every meal? Jenny Craig makes it simple. Just walk into a neighborhood Jenny Craig center or give us a call. You'll meet your dedicated personal consultant who helps you reach your goals. Together, you'll pick out delicious Jenny Craig foods that you'll love and design a menu that fits your life. And the best part is that you can get started losing weight right away. Don't wait any longer to take advantage of our best offer ever. Call 1-800-JENNY20 or visit jennycraig.com.
This is the sound of salmonella gyrating on your undercooked chicken. And it looks like Mom might be taking it out a little early. Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. So use a thermometer to cook each type of meat to the right temperature. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
I'm making beef sliders for my friend Sandy. Nana taught me to always pull meat off the grill early so it's extra juicy.
Use a food thermometer to ensure ground beef is 160 degrees, or you could make people really sick. Sandy didn't think twice about the sliders she ate until yoga class, when a nasty case of food poisoning turned her downward-facing dog into upward-moving lunch. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov and learn the steps Maria unwittingly leaves out. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm place on a cold
I want to
day.
be a football
I want to
stadium.
be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. It's not over. Getting beyond tolerance, defeating homophobia, and winning true equality. I'm really glad we had that chance to speak with Michelangelo Signorile. And you can listen to his show, his broadcast on Sirius XM Progress. I believe it's every day starting at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's so many things to unpack with this. And I have to be mindful be mindful of the fact that not everyone is going to agree with me on this, and that's quite okay. I'm okay with you not agreeing with me on some things. Actually, I think it's best that we don't agree on everything. If you agree with me on every single thing, then something's wrong. But I think, and I'm speaking to some of my audience, not all of my audience. I think it's high time that we realize that we could beat this, we can win this thing if we work together with other groups that are experiencing bigotry in their own way. And as I was talking to Mike, it just dawned on me all the more, the slogan that I go underneath, that I have not been doing on this show, out of hesitation, reticence, sexism is racism, is homophobia, is Islamophobia, is xenophobia. It is all the same hatred. It's simply expressed in a different way, with different words, with different types of discrimination. And it's experienced by each individual group in a unique way. How a woman experiences sexism is not necessarily how an African American experiences racism, but it comes from the same bitter, evil, bigoted root. And sometimes we really get lost in the fact that we have so many differences and that we see our fights so differently. And I understand that. I'm not minimizing our differences. I'm not minimizing the uniquenesses of our individual fights, right? I understand that it's important for women, gay women of color, that particular intersection, to express and to fight and to speak on their issues that are unique to them, that no one else experiences. Just like gay white men have a fight that I don't have as a straight Christian man. And so it's not to minimize everyone's, I'm not saying that we need to make progressivism homogenized. But what I'm saying is that at some level, we need to realize that each and every one of us are fighting against the same bigotry. There is a common enemy. There's a common threat to all of progress. And that is fear I'm going to put fear first and bigotry second and conforming to the status quo last. I put fear first because I honestly believe, in my naivete, call me naive, it is what it is, but I honestly believe that if people actually allow themselves to view the world through the lens of someone else and become empathetic and have conversations with and learn about and just try to understand someone else's perspective, that all of their hesitation would be dissolved and they would become an ally instead of an adversary. I think that's true not only of progressives, I think that's true of most conservatives. Like Mike was mentioning, it's not really the organizers. It's not the people. Let me flip that. It's not the people, the average person in the seat. It's not the average person in the pew that's the problem. The average person in the pew is just trying to live their life. They're listening to a leader, a political leader or a religious leader, or they're listening to someone, an ambitious person who's using a particular issue to drive a wedge between them and another group. Simply put, they're using Black people as the excuse for all of the problems of poor white people, or they're using gay marriage as the excuse of that's what's wrong with America. What's wrong with America is that people want to get gay married, right? And so because that person in the pew is searching for some understanding of their plight, when they hear people tell them that, they buy into it. And I think those people, some of them, not all of them, I think those people are the ones that we can win over once, just by helping them or having them help themselves overcome their fears, their hesitation. They may fear a Muslim and they don't even know any Muslims. And if they do know Muslims, then they have not allowed themselves to go beyond their fear. So fear is first. If we overcome the fear, and then if we overcome, actually, let me rearrange it. Not the bigotry, but next overcome those who want to conform to the status quo. That's really what we're up against. Women who are facing sexism and they're facing 75 cents to the dollar, they're not getting equal pay for equal work. Those women are fighting against people who want to maintain the status quo. Black people who are fighting against having to conform to respectability politics. Are having to talk a certain way, or you can't even have an Afrocentric sounding or a non-European sounding name, and having to conform in that way. We're fighting against the status quo. Gay people who are trying to get married, who are trying to simply have equality under the law. They're not looking to change your religious definition. And I think that's a major distinction. Most LGBT literature that I read and most people that I speak to have absolutely no interest in changing your religious perception of marriage. They simply want equal rights under the law for their union. Call it a marriage, call it a union, call it I don't care what you call it. They want the rights that the government gives. So they're not interested in changing your definition of marriage, but they are also fighting against those who want to maintain the status quo. And the status quo of America is like what Bill O'Reilly said, and I will always play this.
America is run by white Christian men.
And if I can add an addendum, straight men. That is the status quo that wants to be maintained. And if we understood that the common threat, the common enemy, are all of those people who use bigotry. I want you to understand bigotry and racism and sexism and homophobia is strategically used to confuse, to distract, and to deflect poor, white, straight Christian men from realizing that the status quo is the problem in their life. This is a big cookie the big elephant that I'm trying to chew right here. So I hope you can ride with me on this. Racism, sexism, homophobia, Islam, there's always going to be an enemy that the status quo, the people in power, the status quo, sometimes, and to be quite honest with you, sometimes it's not always conservatives. Sometimes there are some Democrats who are trying to maintain the status quo. They don't want you to rock the boat because they like what the boat is giving them. So it's not always about a political affiliation, but it generally is about a political ideology. If you are a true progressive, then you are trying to overturn the status quo so that there can be equality for all. But the people in power who want to maintain the status quo use all different types of bigotry to distract and deflect and to keep poor white people from realizing what the true problem is. What is the true problem? Great question. I'm glad you asked. I already said it. I'll say it again. The true problem is the status quo in America. It is the political, it is the economic, most of all, and it is the social status quo. That is the problem. The reason poor people in Owsley, Kentucky are poor is not just because, you might want to just, we might look at them and say, oh, they're lazy and they're on welfare and all this. No, it's because there are structural impediments to their growth, to their economic development. But so long as the Republican Party, generally, conservatism specifically, so long as conservatism can convince those people in Owsley, Kentucky, that the problem is lazy minorities, the problem is gay marriage, the problem is radical feminism. So long as Republicans and conservatives are able to confuse and deflect and distract them from ever realizing what the real problem is, the status quo will always be protected, always. And we will not get the progress that we need in America. So that's why I put fear first, and I put bigotry second, and I put the status quo last. Bigotry is just the tool to incite the fear. All of these are levels to protect the status quo, which is why it's vitally important that we begin to some level. I'm not asking people to lay down their individual plights. That's not for you to do. That's for, I see my job as representing progressivism across the board. That's my job. That's what I've been burdened with. That's what I always talk about. So when I speak about race, even though I experience that directly, I'm speaking about it in context of the same bigotry and the same hatred that fuels all of these, all of the different marginalized groups. It is all fueled by the same hatred. So you don't have to, but what I will ask of progressives would be to consider your ally. Consider their plight. Consider what they're going through, and consider that what you experience and what you fight against, even though it's different on the surface, once you dig underneath, it's the same plight. It's the same battle that everyone else is fighting against here in America. All right. You know what? This is probably the only time I'm going to get to go to my next break. Folks, we're going to be back after this next break. And when we come back, we're going to close out, discuss the book a little bit more, and we're going to talk about the future of the Benjamin Dixon Show. Buckle up for the ride, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back after this.
You're tuned in to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Join the conversation. 857-600-0518.
Looking for the right business opportunity? Need the right product, the right marketing plan, and the absolute best training in the world? Well, look no further. The Elite Team. Every leader in time excels. They believe the key ingredients in becoming successful in life and in business are just a keystroke away. Go to www.eliteteamsite.com. That's www.eliteteamsite.com. TEAMSITE.com. The elite team has a system in place that will move you closer to achieving your goals and dreams. Visit www.eliteteamsite.com or TonyFlemingEnterprises.com today.
College is important, but it can also be expensive. College Planning Services is a group of educators, administrators, counselors, and other licensed professionals that work together to provide the necessary services, networks, and information to reach students that are serious about getting a college education. College Planning Services partners with financial institutions, corporate sponsors, and other major players in the global market to strategize in building a pool of information regarding financial aid, scholarships, and funding information to assist students in preparing to access the essential resources to build upon their path to an educational future. Learn more at collegeplanningtoday.com and let us help you start your college career.
Do you want to take your business to the next level? Ultimate Business Solutions provides the support you need to increase your customer base and sell more products and services online. Specializing in graphic arts, web development, and internet marketing, Ultimate Business Solutions creates the face of your business. If you're looking for a custom logo, dynamic website, or popping marketing material, call Ultimate Business Solutions today at 404-704-2197 or visit www.ultimatebizsolutions.com. Ultimate Business Solutions. Let us create your future.
Do you have tax issues, owe back taxes, or need tax relief? Contact L&B Tax Service today. L&B offers you over 15 years of expertise and first-class tax service for individuals, professionals, and business owners. With nationwide service, you can easily find a location near you. Contact one of our tax professionals through our website, lbtaxservice.com. That's www.lbtaxservice.com. L&B Tax Service Incorporated. Tax professionals that you can trust. You've tuned in to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
All right. So I understood it, and it took me a minute after I read the book to understand where he was coming from with regard to getting beyond tolerance. Because tolerance is a very deceptive concept. And you guys, hang on 1 second here. You know what I hate more than anything else? When you have to sneeze and it won't come. I'm like, would you just come already? Let me sneeze. And instead, anyway, tolerance is a very deceptive concept in that the idea of tolerance seems noble, doesn't it? The idea of being accepting seems ideal. But underneath the concept of tolerance is the idea that someone else has the authority to say what's okay and what's not okay. And in regard to this conversation, they have the authority to say what is acceptable in your life and what's not acceptable in your life, or what is acceptable in American culture and what's not acceptable in American culture. And that is where the competition lies right now today. The competition resides in the fact that some people feel like they have the monopoly on American identity and on American culture. And they feel like anything that does not conform to their vision of America is not acceptable. And perhaps over time, we can grow to tolerate it. That's why the idea of tolerance is so deceptive. Because tolerance may get you in the door, but it doesn't change the fundamental nature of the system. And what he's talking about in the book with getting beyond tolerance means we don't need your pat on the head, pat on the back to say, okay, we're ready for you now. You can come in. No, what we're saying is move the hell over. America belongs to all of us. You don't get to dictate to us what America can and cannot be. America is its own entity, and it's going to grow and become bigger than one ideology. And so someone saying, okay, we will tolerate, or we will accept, or we will don't ask, don't tell, or we will, live with, it's okay so long as you dress like us. It's okay so long as you take names like us. It's okay so long as you act like a man, or you act like a woman is supposed to act. It's okay so long as you don't conflate your religion, because, America is supposed to be a Christian nation. It's okay so long as you suppress who you are as a unique individual and your unique collective society and culture. So long as you suppress that, we can tolerate you. The bad news for you, for those of you who believe that, is that we've awakened completely from what Signorile described as victory blindness. We've awakened, whatever. It's too early in the morning. We are awake, and we realize that you giving us tolerance is part of the problem. We realize that you saying that we are okay is part of the problem, because that still puts you on a perch that separates you from us and says that you have the right to dictate to us what is traditional. You have the right to dictate to us what is acceptable. You have the right to dictate to us what is tolerable. And what we're trying to tell you is no, no, you don't have that right. We dictate for ourselves in America what is acceptable, what is tolerable, what acceptable within reason. All right. We're not talking about crimes. We're not going to the logical extreme. Right. We're not going there. We're talking about our rights as an individual. We decide for ourselves what is acceptable, what is traditional, what is normal. And we decide for ourselves what is tolerable. We cannot decide for someone else whether or not their existence is palatable enough to be in the mainstream of America. And that is the radical revolution that is happening right now. There is a violent, figuratively speaking, there is a radical, violent revolution taking place in America right now, figuratively speaking, where we are ripping from the status quo the very notion that they have the right to define the status quo. We are ripping it from them. We are telling them that they no longer get to decide what America is going to look like. And that is terrifying for a lot of people. That is downright terrifying when someone comes into your home only to help you to understand that your home is not yours in isolation, that we share this home equally, and that we have the right to be comfortable in this home just as much right as you have to be comfortable, so that a white Christian straight man, the comfort that he feels in America will be experienced by the gay Black woman and every other intersection that has been erased. That, my friends, that is a revolution if I have ever seen one. That is something, that is the next stage of evolution in America. Because America, and this is the rightfully so, this is the next logical stage of evolution in that promise that all men, mankind, humankind, are created equal. That is the next stage in the promise that this was going to be a more perfect union. And which is why the other day I said that despite their misogyny, despite their racism, despite their white supremacist mindset, I still have to salute the founding fathers because they wrote a vision for America that was bigger than their bigotry. Now, whether they did that on purpose or not, that's debatable. That's debatable. Maybe they wrote something. If they knew the outcome of their promise, maybe they would not have written it. We can debate that all day long. Nevertheless, it was written. And so now we've caught wind of it. It only took a couple of 100 years. But we've all caught wind of it. And we're now saying America is not a place where you are going to tolerate us. America is a place where we are going to be equal and create something new that has never before been seen. Folks, I'm getting ready to get out of here. Listen, we're getting ready to start something new with the Benjamin Dixon Show. We're looking to the future. We're going to start doing, starting, if not next week, because I'm still a little jet lagged. I'm still recovering from this trip. I got sick while I was over there, and it was I wish I had just stayed all 2 weeks at a resort, but 2 weeks we were in the jungle, and so adjusting back to regular life is quite the challenge. I'm having to do some meditations and some, a lot of prayer and a lot of just trying to get my mind back right so that I can do all the things I need to do. But nevertheless, starting next week or the week after that, I'm bringing on, we're going to go to a 2-hour format. That's big news, right? That's, that's a big thing. Thank you. I appreciate the applause. We're starting with a 2-hour format, and right dead smack in the middle of our show, I'm going to be bringing on panelists, pundits. In my time doing this, I've come across a lot of people with great insight. You've seen some of them. The Reign of April Rain. She's going to come on probably at least once a week, and I have other commentators that are coming on once a week. I have some guests that might be on a little more frequently than that. But we're going to take the news of the day and we're going to dissect it. This is something that's going to be best experienced on YouTube. You can watch it live on YouTube, but you'll also be able to hear the discussions like you're listening right now via the Spreaker, via radio, internet radio. And so that's what's going on. So going forward, there's going to be a little bit of me, a big chunk of our panel, and then a little bit of me. But what we're going to do is we're going to give you insights that rival any other talk show, morning show, because we have it like that, right? We have those insights. We're going to debate the issues. It's not going to all be liberals. It's not going to all be progressives. I'm intentionally making sure that I bring some conservatives along with me because I love a rigorous debate. I love to hear the alternate opinions, the other sides. And sometimes people are going to call me on my bull, but I'm definitely going to call them on their bull as well. So we're going to attack the issues of the day. We're going to talk about the upcoming election 2016, and we're going to dissect it with a panel that's coming up starting. If I can't get it started on June 1st, we will start on June 8th with that segment. And it's only because I've been gone for so long and couldn't get things moving the way I wanted to. That's it, folks. This is Wednesday. I will see you Friday at 7:30, bright and early in the morning. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. I will talk to you at that time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
And until that moment comes, when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, that I am not a ward of America. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment.
And we are brothers. It's not a question of Jews or Christians or Muslims. We're all in the same boat.
We need each other.
Love is a condition so powerful. It may be that which holds the stars in the firmament.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
Love.
Until this moment.
I come to you today to say that we can build a newer and better nation. I say we can do so, that we must do so, and that we will do so.
You've tuned in to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.